Chapter 2: The Heartbreak. I felt that I couldn't talk to anyone about what I was going through because I kept this relationship private from everyone in my life. I was waiting to find out where this relationship was going. Did he love me? Did we have a future together for the rest of our lives? Once I knew, I was then going to let my family know. That is what I wanted, a proper loving relationship. To get married, where you would live with someone for the rest of your life, enjoy each other's company, support each other in difficult times, and build a future together. I believed and will always believe in God. I knew in my heart of hearts, morally, that I was living a life of sin, even though we were not together. It didn't sit comfortably with me at all. I was hoping that this relationship would become solid and transparent, and that we would be married, to declare our love to each other, to our family and friends, and build a loving, caring, and supportive life with one another. Not to hide it from the world. Unfortunately, I loved this man, but he didn't love me in return. It was getting to the point that it was becoming increasingly difficult mentally and emotionally to continue in this way. When on my own, I would think about and analyse my whole life, feeling depressed and not motivated to do anything. I would also feel guilty of not letting my closest loved ones, my dad, my mum, my brother and my sister, know about us. Also, we as a couple, not spending time together with my family, which was important to me, as I am close with them. He had clothes of his stored in my wardrobe that he hardly wore. They were taking up valuable space, and I was thinking to myself, why am I keeping his clothes in the wardrobe if he's not living here as they were supposed to be stored elsewhere? He brought them over initially a long time ago to store them at my home until he had a chance to take them to the Central Coast to his family's friend's house. This never eventuated. When I was decluttering the wardrobe, as you do from time to time, I decided to wash, iron and fold his clothes, put them into new vacuum bags, in new plastic storage containers and store them in the garage. One day we went into the garage and he noticed his clothes stored there, and he seemed perplexed as to why they were there. I said to him that they were taking up space in the wardrobe, that he didn't wear hardly any of them very much, that he was supposed to take them to the Central Coast, and that I had washed, ironed, folded and stored them in new vacuum bags and new storage containers for safekeeping until he was able to take them there. This was early October 2022, and he had come over for a visit. I was in the kitchen preparing a meal, and he was in the study room using my computer. After he had left that evening, I had a usual night at home. The next day, I went to make the bed. When I walked around the other side of the bed that I usually don't sleep on, I noticed a small round sphere on the floor between the valance and the bedroom ceiling to floor window. From memory, it was dark brown, almost black in colour, and approximately 1.5 to 2 centimetres in diameter. It had fibres through it and looked like a round seed pod. I have tree gardenias in my backyard, and it looked like those seed pods. I thought to myself, I wouldn't have brought that into the house and put it under the bed. I'm thinking, what is that? Then I remembered that he was here yesterday afternoon. I then instantaneously thought that this is something that he must have brought into my home. I then had a suspicion that it must be some object of dark, also known as black magic, made of hair and such. I know what you must be thinking, that I've lost the plot. I'm crazy. Well, I do know that these things exist, as I have had experiences of these things growing up, and no, my family did not practice, nor I practiced, any of the dark arts. I would never contemplate such a thing. To deliberately hurt someone? Emphatically no. I then became furious. I was then thinking to myself, how could he do this to me? After knowing him for so long, loving him, trusting him, and without hesitation doing so much for him? This was the last straw that broke the camel's back. This also meant that they, not sure who and how many, could have hexed me that night with their spells, magic, or whatever, because I didn't find it until the next morning. I was now faced with an emotionally hurtful and tormenting dilemma. I knew now I could no longer continue with this relationship. Was I going to end this today? How could I tell someone that I've known for so long that I don't want to ever see or hear from them again? Even though it was tearing me up inside, in my heart of hearts, I truly felt that I had no choice. What was I going to do? How was I going to end things, and when? I pondered over all these questions for a couple of hours, but I knew it had to be done today, whilst agonizing over my own overwhelming and mixed emotions. I was feeling totally distraught and angry about what he had done to me. Whether it was him doing the dark magic or him getting someone else to do it, of being hurt by someone that I loved, and of being used for all these years by stringing me along, breadcrumbing me, so that he could get what he wanted. Him being selfish and not caring about me, rather than letting me go to pursue my life with possibly someone else. And to top it all off, being financially stolen from, $51,121 to be exact. Most of all, he stole my heart and broke it in two. I gave my all to someone that I loved unconditionally, and all I got in return was a broken heart. I know that I could never trust him again. The first thing I did was put the round object in the bin. The bin was going to be emptied the next day, and it would be gone from my home for good. I was totally disgusted by it. Then I was thinking that I had all his clothes in the garage, and I needed to get them back to him. I didn't want any of his belongings in my home, or in my life for that matter, ever again. It had crossed my mind to get a courier to deliver them. However, I didn't know if that would have happened today, and it would have cost a reasonable amount, as I had about 3 or 4 large containers which were heavy. I decided to pack the named and addressed containers full of his belongings into my car, including a USB copy of all his documents and emails that were stored on my computer, and I delivered them to his house. He lived approximately 15 to 20 minutes from my home. I pulled up against the curb near the driveway in front of one of the two houses where he and his brother lived. Both houses were next to each other. I wasn't sure which house he was actually living in. I didn't even know if his brother was home at the time. I took each container out of the car one by one as they were heavy and put them inside the front yard on the grass of the house the car was closest to. I was feeling upset. I was anxious because I didn't want anyone to be out the front when I got there, and feeling sad and guilty of ending things this way because of how long we had known each other. I immediately got in the car and drove home. When I got home, I knew I then had to send him a text to let him know I was ending this relationship, and I was concerned that his personal belongings might be stolen. This was truly one of the most difficult things I have had to do in my life. The bittersweet message stated that he hurt me, that his personal belongings were packed in weatherproof containers that were in his front yard, that he was no longer welcome in my home, that he was not to call me anymore. I thanked him for everything he helped me with over the years, and that I sincerely wished him all the best. I then blocked his phone numbers from my mobile phone. By now, I was completely exhausted, physically, emotionally, and mentally drained, and went to bed and cried myself to sleep.